Hello and welcome. You're watching Trending at 10. I'm Sanket Upadhyay. A web series called The Family Man is now in the middle of a controversy, with the RSS, the parent cultural body of the ruling BJP, now calling it anti-national. In a write-up in the organization's mouthpiece, some comments made by an actress in the series allegedly likening acts of Indian forces with terrorists is what has the RSS most upset. We are yet to hear an official word from the producers or the actors. NDTV has made repeated attempts to reach out to these actors as well, but there are a number of important angles to this conversation. One, web series are free of any censorship, any form of control, which make them a liberating experience to watch. But how much liberty is too much liberty? And secondly, have organizations become too touchy about the works of fiction, or did this web series cross some sort of a line? We'll discuss both these specific angles on the show today. Let's quickly introduce our guest this evening. I've got Deshratan Nigam. He's a political analyst. With me in the studio, Dilip Cherian is an image guru who's also going to be with us. Geeta Bhatt, a political analyst, and Tehseen Poonawala, also a political analyst, joining us from the national capital. So we'll begin with you, Mr. Deshratan Nigam. So for the benefit of our viewers, for all those who have not seen the web series, I'll tell you what the controversy is.
Including me.
Yes, okay. So the controversy is that there was a write-up in Panchajanya which talks about certain comments that were made by a character played by Gul Panag. She's deputed in Kashmir, and at the iconic Lal Chowk, she's asked a question by MANOJ BAJPAYEE, who's in the lead in the series, that what do you think about the role of the Indian agencies? To which she allegedly likens them to terrorists, saying that it is the fight between these two that has left the people the collateral damage. Right? How are we any better or any worse than those terrorists? Right? These are the comments that she makes, and that is it. So some of the people are looking at this as pro people of Kashmir. The others are looking at this as anti-national, as was mentioned in that write-up. Now I want to know from you, where do you stand on this issue?
First, let us be very clear. This is not the official view of the RSS. There are only 3 people authorized in RSS to have an official view. Now, this is a magazine like any other magazine where some independent person has written an article in that.
So, this is not the RSS
view. Okay. Let us be very, it's not an RSS official view. You will hear from the Sarsang Chalak or the General Secretary or the media head, the 3 official views that come. So, let us come to the content. Now, we cannot call it a fiction. When you're talking about restrictions, internet, Kashmir, this does not sound like fiction. This sounds like the real facts are being commented upon.
But it can be a work of fiction with the location being
work of fiction.
Kashmir.
No, work of fiction is all right. But when you say of internet, when you talk of restrictions out there, when you talk of Armed Forces Special Power Act, then this does not sound fiction. This is an opinion on the factual situation prevailing on the ground. So what is being said when you compare the administrative machinery with the militants? Yes, anybody should have an objection to it. When you say that the AFSPA is oppressing them, and there is a stated policy of the government of India, not of any particular party, let us be very clear, about Kashmir, and when you depict something which is contrary to the official policy, that is where we have the objection.
Okay.
You may have your issues, right, fine, but the fact is when you compare the administrative machinery with the militants is something, I certainly cannot digest it. And secondly, the other issue is when you justify, picking up of arms by the militants and ascribe a reason, yes, and that too is an account of, official policy of the government, instead of calling it that it is on account of Islamic jihad, then I have a problem.
Okay. Where do you stand on this issue? Dilip Cherian.
My take on it is about the fact that any web series has to sell based on a very clever interplay of what was referred to as fact and fiction. It has to be that which creates what I call artistic tension to make a 7-part series work or sell. So the first thing is that there is a commercial angle to it. The second thing is that as far as I have seen it, as long as the conclusion at the end, if at the end Gul Panag in her character sends him off into Pakistan, then make sure he's retrieved back, the fact is that the end point is positive. It is pro-India and very clearly a kind of message which says this is the real India. This is who wins. Because don't forget that for the last 70 years, we've been having this very clear, antagonistically oriented neighbor. Okay? The neighbor has caused us immense tension, trouble, and all kinds of things. The fact is that this series also at the end shows that here is an operative who can go in, get his business done and come back safely. And that in some senses is where the story leads up to. If you have good versus evil kind of films and the good guy is winning from the beginning, no one's going to watch the film. Every film which is a good
and it's not going to be real also.
And a good versus bad film must always involve the good guy getting battered somewhere in the midpoint of the film to raise the tension. Otherwise, who's going to watch the film? So, in some senses, as somebody
forget watching, I would say it will not even be real. That's not how things happen in real life. The point over here is...
And as someone who's been on the censor board more than one time, I recognize that there are limits to artistic freedom, and that, I think, is set by the fact that there is a board which oversees such films. In this case, because it's a web series, it is not subject to that, and what Mr. Nigam said is absolutely right. But as long as anyone who watches this gets the right message in the end, I'm happy. I think they have the right to do it.
Tehseen, let me ask you this. There are two layers to this conversation. One is the comments that were allegedly made by the character played by Gul Panag, whether that is correct or not. And number two, web series not falling into any form of censorship control, whether that is good or not. I would say that right now, what we see by way of these web series is far better production content than what we see otherwise. Even better than movies, I would say. So, they're doing a good job without any form of censorship.
With few exceptions.
With a few exceptions, like always.
In a democracy, I believe that censorship must not exist, especially in the form of art. If you do not like a painting, do not go to the art gallery and view it. If you do not like a book, shut the book, stop reading it. You have no right to burn the book. You don't like a movie, don't buy tickets and watch the movie. You don't like a web series, don't watch the web series. You have to subscribe to it. The idea of censorship or dictating to somebody what someone must say or not say is very, very dangerous in a democracy, and is the beginning of fascism and the end of democracy and liberty. Tomorrow, if I don't like your news channel, for example, I may decide to switch off and watch another news channel. That's a liberty. But to censor you and say what kind of a news channel you have to run is absolutely unacceptable. And that is what the basis of a democracy is. Now to this particular case, I quote the Honorable Prime Minister, where the Honorable Prime Minister in November 2014 says that it is due to him, for the first time army men are being punished for encounters. This is while campaigning in Kashmir. Is the Honorable Prime Minister committing an act of sedition, an illegal act? There are several cases where a great army, and what makes our army so great? It makes it so great that it gives civilians justice. Does that mean that our army, when it acts against its own people, is committing an act of sedition? No, our army is such a great organization. So we must learn to accept different points of view, because that's what makes democracy great. And we must accept them with humility and not impose our views on it.
Okay, one moment. Dr. Bhatt has not spoken. Dr. Bhatt.
Yeah. Sanket, see, I totally agree, and I think everyone in the panel will agree, including you, that Constitution of India Article 19, guarantees freedom of expression, a right to speak and express. But at the same time, we have to also remember that it also comes with there are 8 restrictions or riders along with it, which has many like defamation, contempt of order, and so on and so forth. However, now when we talk about a series, an internet series, which is being aired, which is being discussed right now, let us remember that just like while the producers or the creative writers who have made this series, they have their right of expression and freedom, those who do not agree to the content which is being aired also have that right and freedom of expression. Absolutely. To tell that what goes wrong in it. And there are many, while now the point is that when any kind of a series or a film is going to be based on something which is contemporary, something which is at present existing, then there will be parallels which will be drawn, and there will be conclusions which many people, many young minds are going to think about it. Now this web series which you are talking about, not seen the whole series, but some bits of pieces. It talks about, there is a parallel being drawn that people in Jammu and Kashmir are taking up arms because of what happened in Gujarat in 2002. Now at that time anyone who got killed in any one of the riots, whether it was in Kokrajhar or whether it was in Bhagalpur riots which took place, whether the riots which took place in
No,
Moradabad,
I'm just saying, Dr. Bhatt, see, this can be a viewpoint, but to dub a series anti-national, its characters anti-national, loosely using these words called anti-national, I think this is incorrect.
Sanket, just give me 10 seconds. I just want to add here is that, you see, we are truly a democracy, not just constitutionally, but also culturally. And that is the reason that such kind of series are being run and being seen by some of the people here. While, in a so-called developed nation like UK, BBC and, organization like BBC that is banning when a man called Inderjit Singh, who's been working with them for the last 30 years, had to resign just because he wanted to state a fact in history of Guru Tegh Bahadur being beheaded by Aurangzeb, and how Gurudwara Sheeshganj, is the place where he was beheaded, that he was not allowed. But this is something which is being shown over here. So that is why we say India is a true democracy.
Okay. Dilip Cherian, again, we come back to those 2 points that we are talking about. Number one, do you think that now with the proliferation of these web series, you have a number of them coming, one each month now, blockbuster series, soon there will be a clamor for a regulation on them as well? Because, what makes them so unique right now is that they don't report to anyone. They're free. There is a notion of them being free.
Sanket,
you get life as you know.
Sanket, across the world, there is a paradigm shift which is happening. If you talk to anybody who is 35 and below, they believe in this new world.
Yeah.
They're not believers in the old shibboleths of rule, regulation, censorship, etc. They choose what they want to watch. In fact, today's generation has been brought up on such extremely gory and violent video games, which is why you see that across the world in films, the level of violence has had to escalate to meet up with the demands of what they were used to watching when they were children watching video games. So, is censorship needed or not? The answer is, as far as OTT platforms are concerned, there is no doubt that the world is moving towards two kinds of viewers. Viewers who want to watch this kind of stuff and viewers who want to watch what is regulated. And it is basically an age divide. We are sitting here and we are on the wrong side of the age divide if we are wondering whether censorship is needed or not needed. Those kids have voted with their remotes.
I'm not on the wrong side.
And this is a fact. And the sad thing is that across the world, regulations will always be a generation behind what the generation now does.
Okay.
And that's well known.
Interesting. Tehseen, you wanted to come in, especially on this point of regulation.
No, just a quick take on Dilip. I'm not on the wrong side of the regulation debate. I'm on the other side. But on a more,
so am I
agree most
I'm
of
also
what
on
Dilip
your
says,
side.
except
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You are Dilip. You're forever 18. You must remember that you're forever 18, Dilip.
Yeah.
But on a larger point, look, I just think it's an individual choice. I agree with Dilip, whether to watch a web series or no. And if somebody in the RSS feels, or whichever organization, that this series is illegal or is anti-national, make a nationalist series and play it. Let people watch that. The answer to something that you don't like is to create, an article you don't like is to write another article. A painting you don't like is to create another art. A web series you don't like is create another web series.
But it's
Censorship
also
is
okay
not
to
the answer.
criticize. It's also okay if you do not like a piece of art to criticize that piece of art.
Sure.
So to that extent, I don't think there is anything wrong in
as
that
long as it's done peacefully.
As long as it is done peacefully.
As Mr.
Calling them
Said,
anti-national is not
This
correct.
is not even an official view of anybody.
And calling
We may
people
be
anti-national is not
vastly
correct.
jumping the gun.
Yeah.
And the fact is that you can object. In fact, you can vote with your remote, as I always say.
Yeah, but you know, the way things are going on, and I'm going to deal in hypotheticals, Mr. Deshatha Nigam, knowing the position of the RSS, knowing the position of the government, a sort of, a gang of ultra-nationalist viewpoints, right? I can very safely say, and I've seen the series, and I can say this with a sense of authority, people will take objection. Now that, I don't think, is a right thing to happen, because at the end of the day, it is an independently produced web series, a work of fiction. Can we not let that be? Because I feel that people get oversensitive about these things.
See, when we talk of next gen, all 18 plus people who are now voting have brought this government. They are Gen Next also. So let us be clear that this government, if it at all takes steps, would be backed by the Generation Next also. So
No, what steps?
any steps if possible. I am not saying they will be, because there is no regulation right now, but your TV broadcast.
But see, the point is, you
TV
can't have a regulation on web series.
No, we are not saying so right
The
now.
very nature of web is independence.
So that is what you think right now. Maybe government may be thinking on certain controls, because not necessarily on see, I'm not saying this entire series is bad. I'm saying certain portions of it. Now, even
But that's exactly censorship.
no, it's not censorship. It's
It is
regulation.
censorship.
It's regulation. Regulation. Every field of yours today
So
is regulated.
can there be self-regulation? For instance, television channels have self-regulation.
Self-regulation. Yes, I was coming to that. So that is the first step. Now, if self-regulation should work, they must have some kind of a council to regulate their content. If there is an objection, they should pass it through that.
No, I would see what will happen is that this is a very subjective opinion. Tomorrow, Ms. Bhatt, there will be people who will come out and say that, see, in this web series, you were trying to show an Indian spy getting into Baluchistan or getting into some area. Now, even that is not right. We should not show that. How much sensitivity is too much sensitivity? And how much should one regulate?
So
there will be no end to this.
No, let me answer that. That is for that particular regulatory council to decide. They will frame the guidelines. Sit down and frame the guidelines. That is where this self-regulation is required. That's the first step. If that doesn't work, then all over the world, then the governments intervene. If self-regulation does not work.
I buy this argument with one caveat. Sacred Games, when it was shown on Netflix, was the world's largest viewed show. The world's largest viewed show, which means that across the world, millions of people watched it.
And it said a lot of things which...
No. What is the message I'm giving? My granddaughter said that Family Man has too much foul words. She said, Nanu, they use the F word. Okay, so, but it's not meant for those people to, those kids to watch anyway. It's just the parents are watching. But if India is to emerge as a soft power, Sacred Game was a new breakthrough for Indian soft power. Indian movies suddenly got a world audience. World audience which was watching what the message from India was, whether it was the underworld, tomorrow it will be Baluchistan, whatever it is. So, if we are going to allow Indians to produce content which is world class, then if you start choking them off, I think you're killing the golden goose very early.
Nicely put. It's interesting that we are now talking about regulation and moving beyond maybe a few utterances or a few words or an expression that was used, because this is a better debate or a better discussion to have, because in the future I look at a possible conversation on regulation also. Geeta Bhatt, Dr. Bhatt.
Well, Sanket, you see, there are, every society has its own set of sensitivities over issues. For example, one of the web series which is being run in United States, which dealt about obesity, that was something which was found, which had a lot of objection from their society. And a lot of people went to the court and they have been asking, there is a court case going on, asking for this series that this should not be aired. So, what may be sensitive here in the Indian context may not be sensitive somewhere abroad. For example, in this particular web series, there is a case where they are showing that a particular, a Muslim boy, he's trying to feed under deception, beef to some people in the Hindu community. Now, and this is being portrayed, it is being subjected as if it is some satyagraha that is being done. It is being justified like this. Now, this is something which may be taken in a very offending manner by
No,
some
see,
people.
a debate is fine, but my point is, if you get into, I actually agree with Dilip Cherian. Tehseen, where do you stand on this issue? That at this moment, if you start talking about or start using the words censorship, regulation, system, process,
self-regulation is
self-regulation, this could potentially destroy. At the same time, how much is too much? How far can you take creative liberty? That too will be a raging debate. Tehseen.
Creative liberty can never be censored, I'm repeating it. And the option is on the viewer. This is a paper viewer. He or she wants to watch something, he'll watch it. Doesn't want to watch something, he won't watch it. For example, Sacred Games, I have not watched it. But I want to make another point. I agree with Dilip. Look, at the end of the day, if India wants to be a superpower and it wants to sell its soft power, then the way to do it is without government or regulations coming in.
Okay.
It must be free for India and the world to choose what it wants to show. Anybody who has an opposing point of view and can make it interestingly enough may make an opposing point of view and let the world see it. Let the world be your theatre and showcase everything that you have. Let people pick and choose what they want to watch.
Okay, run out of time. Deshratan Nigam, Dilip Cherian, very quickly, I have to go to another story also.
See, the fact remains that what Tehseen is saying is contrary to the constitutional provisions. All kind of freedoms come with some restrictions.
Okay. Thank you very much, all of you all, for joining us on this discussion. Let us hope that we continue to make some great web series because they're great fun to watch. Thank you so much.